And this is the grid that will shape up for race 1. Kelvin van der Linde and Lucas Auer on row 1. Arjen Guwen and Luca Engstler on row 2. Jack Aitken and Thomas Preining start on the 3rd row. Mirko Bortolotti and Jules Gounon, who's standing in for Lucas Stoltz, up next. Maro Engel and Nicky Tim complete the top 10. Then it's Ricardo Feller and Arjun Maini. Row 7, Frank Pereira standing in for Christian Engelhardt and Marco Wittmann. Max Powell and Rene Rast start 15th and 16th. Then Thierry Vermeulen and Clement Schmidt on the penultimate row of the grid. Back on the last row of the grid, Sheldon van der Linde. And we are about to burst into life as they nail the throttles and charge into battle then. On the way into the first corner they go. It's a great start for Kelvin van der Linde. Arjen Guwen's Porsche looking at the inside of Lucas Auer's Mercedes. Auer then runs wide. He stays in 2nd place though. Guwen reminding in 3rd place. And then I think it's the Ferrari of Jack Aitken challenging. Yeah, it is challenging around the outside of Luca Engstler. He can't get there though, so Engstler will stay 4th. 5th will be Aitken. 6th place will be Thomas Preining. All willing because Mirko Bortolotti gets a good run coming out of turns 3 and 4. They head towards the Parabolica where they get up to 265 kilometres an hour. Ricardo Feller has been pushed out wide and onto the grass, losing all of his momentum, losing all of his places.
Without wishing to rain on anybody's parade, just to remind you also that Kelvin van der Linde is on 2 reprimands. 3 would be a bit of a disaster as we look again at the field heading into that first corner. But yes, Kelvin van der Linde.
And he's got great traction coming out of the Spitzkehrer as well, coming out of the hairpin. A right-hander coming up. Bortolotti, you're right on board with him now. He's alongside Luca Engstler. Boom, another place he picks up. 4th place already for the Italian from 7th on the grid. Just the start that he needed. BMW trying to make his way up from the back row of the grid. He's gained a few places already. There's Rene Rast in the blue BMW, who came from 23rd to finish 3rd in race 2 here last year. Now Nicky Tim going side by side here with Thomas Preining, the double winner here last year. Preining squeezes him out though and stays ahead, so remains in 9th position. Yeah, so we are flying already compared to what we've done so far this weekend. First time we've had a chance of a dry track. 1:39.3, the fastest lap for the race leader is Sheldon van der Linde. Makes his way past the McLaren of Ben Durr, and that puts him into the points now. 1 point at least for 15th. Not that he's really thinking about points in what's been a disappointing season. He's 6th in the championship, but wanting to fight for the championship. Nicky Tim going side by side with Thomas Preining again. But it's quite often the case, Brian, that somebody dives down the inside at the Spitzkehrer and then loses out on the drag race up to the next corner. But Nicky Tim has got it, and he's brave, isn't he, on the brakes on the way through into the right-hander at turn number 8. He makes turn number 7, he gets through.
I've certainly broken clear of Luca Engstler in that 6th place as Jules Gounon, as if on demand, attacks for P7. Jack Aitken suddenly with his mirrors full of Mercedes. That's looking back from the perspective of Jack Aitken.
Yeah, on the way into turn 7 at 215 kilometres an hour. Into turn 3, they drop down to 2nd gear, 80 kilometres an hour, hard on the brakes. Hard to pass there. You wind your way up then through turns 9, 10 and 11 as they work their way up towards the end of the 2nd sector. Coming up next, the spectacular turn 12, the Mobile 1 curver, which is taken at 165 kilometres an hour, almost side by side. Jules Gounon had to think about it. Jack Aitken says, no, I'm staying where I am. You've got to tuck in behind me. And Nicky Tim wants a piece of the action as well. And the Lamborghini with the bright orange wing mirrors goes around the outside, goes too high around the outside, runs out of road, runs into the gravel, loses all his momentum and loses a ton of places as well. Just carried a bit too much speed, was just a bit high through the turn, so he tucks back in. Here's a replay. It's exactly what Nicky Tim was trying to do. They were holding each other up. He said, right, I'll carry the momentum around the outside, but he just went a bit too high around the corner, didn't he?
That's a tricky bit of track there. It's also quite banked, a lot more than you realise, but he kept it out of the fence. That was the important bit. It did a bit of off-roading, rejoined, but as you say, dropping back into 12th place. So he's going to have to do a bit of work there to get back up. The view from Jack Aitken as Jules Gounon challenges him. Jack, who said that the Ferrari does not like it when it's kind of a mixture between wet and dry. Really good stuff, as we've seen him on the podium those 2 times at the Red Bull Ring.
Nicky Tim is on the march to try and get back up the order. See the background, he's right underneath the rear wing of Thomas Preining. Here they are, the 2 brightest cars on the grid. Here they turn, and the Viking then is going on the attack here, but Tommy Preining is going to fight hard to keep him behind in the Manthey EMA Porsche. Manthey can still win the pit stop challenge this year. Average 6.8 seconds now. Luca Engstler is about to concede a position potentially here to Jules Gounon. No, he's not. It makes the Lamborghini wide, gives a little nudge to the front right corner of the Mercedes on the way out of the turn. So as they come out of the Spitzkehrer, the Lamborghini stays just ahead, and the former TCR touring car champion makes his presence known and gets back in front of Jules Gounon, who was briefly ahead of him coming out of the turn. Jules then closes up under braking, but the Mercedes driver has to sit tight for now. But he's closed the gap of over a second in just over a lap. So Jules Gounon, no doubt about it, is the quicker of the 2 drivers. tyres, and the Frenchman about to get another position here up the inside of Engstler and into the top 6.
Great to see some of the routine as they head towards the pit stops. Great to see Lucas Auer having a little look to the inside of Kelvin van der Linde. Just to repeat what I said, van der Linde cannot afford a DNF, and Lucas Auer will be totally aware of that. He's the one who can take the risks. Kelvin van der Linde needs to bring it home in the points. Turn 7 they come, which is taken flat out. Looks like there's been a bit of damage on René Rast. I think he might have been in the wars a bit as he's charged his way through.
Yeah, so Luke Engstler struggling a little bit.
Putting the pressure on. Here's a replay of René Rast with the gap on the inside of the hairpin. Then
one of the McLarens heading into the pits as well, Clement Schmidt and Thierry Vermeulen's Ferrari as well. So 4 come in, rolling the dice, change the rears first, then change the front tyres, Pirelli slick tyres on. Away goes Luke Engstler. A decent stop for the Grasser Racing team. He was stationary for 7.9 seconds, so it's not mega, it's okay. Marco Wittmann was stationary for 7.8, Thierry Vermeulen. So 3 come in to make the pit stops. Almost at the end of the pit lane are windward, so it'll seem like forever coming down into the pit stops. More joining in, coming into the pits from further down the order as well, including Frank Pereira. Maro Engel is released, away he goes. 6 seconds dead, fantastic pit stop. He's not that far in front of the green Porsche, so these are 3 battling for 3rd place effectively. Bortolotti looks like he's going to hang on to what was a net 4th position once all the pit stops are done. However, Maro Engel is way closer than he was before the pit stops, isn't he?
Getting the heat into those tyres and fending off car 130. But again, Engel has a look on the inside, the 2 cars side by side. Bortolotti goes wide. Engel muscles his way through, takes the position away. Bortolotti relegated down into 9th place.
On the way into the Sachs curve at turn 13, he's almost with Lucas Auer now. He probably won't be able to find a way past at the end of this lap. Here's a replay of the move of Maro Engel and Mirko Bortolotti. Mirko won't think that's a great move. He'll be a bit grumpy about that. But off the racetrack, and off the racetrack has gone Lucas Auer. He goes wide coming out of the final turn. Here comes then Kelvin van der Linde. This is your chance, Kelvin. He goes to the outside, he cuts to the inside, he thuds over the curbs. The Audi R8 goes side by side with the Mercedes. This for the net lead of the race for all 25 points. And Kelvin van der Linde's got the inside line, and he goes through the South African, charging back through into the net lead of the race. And that was all because of the pressure he'd been applying to Lucas Auer coming out of the final 2 turns.
Yeah, no surprises. The race stewards are having a look at that. That's a replay of that moment that Lucas Auer had. Did well to keep it pointing in the right direction, if I'm honest. Getting out on the grass, there's not much grip out there, I'll have you know. And it left him vulnerable to Kelvin van der Linde. Van der Linde saw his opportunity and took it. And that's the only opportunity he needed to get past Lucas Auer. But now, can he...
Jules Gounon leads the race, but has yet to make a pit stop. As I say, 32 to 33 seconds, the total time for a pit stop. That would put him back in around about 7th place. Look at this, 3 abreast. Marco Wittmann, Luca Engstler on the outside, Nicky Tim in the Lamborghini keeps his foot absolutely buried, but the BMW has got in between those 2 Lamborghinis. Big Marco is on a charge here, so that puts him ahead of Engstler up to 11th place. And Jules Gounon, I can see, has come into the pits, the race leader, which just leaves Sheldon van der Linde, and he comes in as well. So the last 2 to make their pit stops come in, still with 8 minutes to go, which means that Kelvin van der Linde is going to pick up the overall lead of the race once again. He is about to come out of turn 17. There was some contact between Nicky Tim's Lamborghini and Jack Aitken's Ferrari earlier on as well. That was at the Sachs curve, and that put the British driver down the order a little bit as well, down at the moment to 15th place. It was a fair bit of contact, that, wasn't it? Nicky Tim muscling through, Arjun Miney taking advantage of that and getting past the Ferrari.
Heading up towards the hairpin once again. Now, will Lucas Auer make a challenge? He goes to the outside, into the hairpin, he pulls in front. Kelvin van der Linde has the inside line though. He has the racing line, he's able to shut the door, so Lucas Auer has to drop in behind, but he's made his intentions very clear.
And this is the move for the lead of the race, to get the lead back from Kelvin van der Linde. After 1 lap on the cold tyres, Lucas Auer almost managed to fend him off, but just ran ragged coming out of turn 17. Got a third of the race to go in this 1 hour plus 1 lap race. A replay of this move on Mirko Bortolotti from earlier on. just after the pit window. Quite a bit quicker on the last lap than the pair of them. Well, the last couple of laps than the pair of them. Showing his nose into the spit scarer is Lucas Auer. Then he dummies it back to the outside, tries to get on the gas earlier, coming on the exit to the corner. He's closing to Kelvin van der Linde. Kelvin's just going to be ahead when they get to the right-hander next, though, and for now keeps the lead of the race.
It's that part of the track where Kelvin looks to be most vulnerable. Lucas Auer again just showing himself to the outside into the left-hander, but Kelvin van der Linde covering him off, but is in along the parabolica towards the hairpin is where Lucas Auer has the real pace and starts to fill the mirrors.
Which saw the engine of his teammate Dennis Olsen's Porsche being torn clean out of the car. Now, showing his nose properly, Lucas Auer goes for the move, there's contact, and the spit scarer, but the South African stays ahead of the Austrian. Kelvin van der Linde just withstood that nudge, but that was a half lunge. He was quite a long way back, but that would have been a real heart-in-the-mouth moment, a heart-stopping moment for everybody supporting Kelvin van der Linde. He was two wheels on the grass there, trying to force his way through. Contact to the right rear corner of the Audi. And you've got to worry about contact with the sharp carbon fibre of that Mercedes. If that had clipped the tyre of Kelvin van der Linde, that could have resulted in a puncture, but I think he missed the tyre. Still just about hanging on to the final championship point in 15th ahead of Max Powell. There is the Grasser Lamborghini from Pereira being pushed into the garage as the leaders come into the final turn. But the 25 points and the championship lead are coming the way of Kelvin van der Linde. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed your starters. Tomorrow, we've got the main course. The championship will go right down to the last day of the season, and Kelvin van der Linde will be the championship leader on Sunday morning. He takes the win.
That's the maximum I've ever done in an Audi. That's the maximum. There's nothing left.
Victory for Kelvin van der Linde, a first podium of the year for Lucas Auer, and Ian Guen with a tremendous third-place podium as well.
I know this was 110%, man. You did it well.
Thrown his heart at that. He's left it all out there, and he's got the win. Well done as well, though, to Ian Guen, who picks up third place, his first podium of the year, his second career podium in the DTM. Great to see him having a much better time of life in the second half of this season. And Lucas Auer back on the podium. What a week he's had after victory in the GT World Challenge Sprint Cup in terms of the championship with Maro Engel last weekend. He gets his first podium. But they're a big intake of breath because Kelvin van der Linde is announced onto the podium as your race winner for round 15 of DTM 2024. The winning team, of course, the AB Sportsline team, have now got their 78th win in this championship. Thanks, Farina. Yeah, really nice to see Lucas Auer get his first podium of 2024.